fourth grade. Today we're going to be working on lesson 12-6, represent situations involving multiplying a fraction and a whole number. And I'm on page 193 in your workbooks. So here on the bottom of 193 it says write an equation to represent the situation. There are 32 boxes that weigh 2/8 pound each. What is the total weight of the boxes? Well, I know that there are 32 boxes times 2/8, because that's the weight of each box, equals W. I need to have an equation, so I have to have an equal sign. So when I solve a problem with a whole number and a fraction, I have to change the whole number to a fraction. 32 over 1. Remember, I can make any whole number a fraction by making the denominator 1. So 32 over 1 times 2/8. Okay, and then I multiply. 32 times 2 is 64. 1 times 8 is 8. 64/8, which equals 8, because 64 divided by 8 is 8. So W equals 8. So the total weight of the boxes is 8 pounds. All right, let's look at number 2. Number 2 says, in a row of 22 stadium seats, each seat is 6/10 of a meter wide. What is the total width of the seats? So I have 22 seats times 6/10 of a meter for each seat will equal W, the total width. So I need to make this 22 over 1 first. I have to have a fraction, times 6/10. 22 times 6 is 132. 1 times 10 is 10. Now I divide. 10 will go into 132 13 times, because 10 times 13 is 130, with 2 left over. 13 and 2/10. I want to put that in simplest form. The greatest common factor of 2 and 10 is 2. So when I divide, I get 13 and 1/5. So W equals 13 and 1/5. That is the total width of the seats. Now let's look on page 194. This is the page that you're going to be doing. Okay, you have 4 problems and then a write about it. Let's look at number 1. It says to write an equation for the situation, then solve the equation. Write your answer as a whole number or a mixed number if needed. All right, you buy 24 tickets at the fair. You use 2/3 of the tickets for rides. How many tickets do you use for rides? Whenever you see the word of, 2/3 of the tickets, of means to multiply. Okay, so 2/3 of 24 means 2/3 times 24, or 24 times 2/3, the commutative property. So number 1 on 194, there are 24 tickets times 2/3 of them for rides equals R. So I need to change 24 to a fraction, 24 over 1 times 2/3. Okay, 24 times 2 equals 48, and 1 times 3 equals 3. Now you need to change that into a mixed number or a whole number. So we're going to divide 48 divided by 3. 3 goes into 4 once. 1 times 3 is 3. 1 left over. Bring down your 8. 3 goes into 18 6 times. 6 times 3 is 18. So we have nothing left. Okay, so 48/3 equals 16. So R equals 16, which means that you used 16 tickets for rides. Okay, so that leaves you 2, 3, and 4, and 5. We're going to look at number 5. Number 5 says, Alyssa says that when you multiply a whole number by 6/12, you can divide the whole number by 2 to get the same answer. Is Alyssa correct? Explain using an example. So let's take a whole number. Let's take 16 times 6/12. Okay. And let's take 2 times 6/12. We're going to do a few different examples. And let's take 3 times 6/12. Let's do all of those. Let's start with this one first. All right, this would equal 2 over 1 times 6/12. Yes, 2 over 1 times 6/12. So 2 times 6 is 12. 1 times 12 is 12, which equals 1. Okay, and then we have 3 over 1 times 6/12, which equals 18 over 12. Okay, and 12 goes into 18 one time with 6 left over, 1 and 6/12, which is also 1 and 1/2. Okay, now before we do this one, let's look at these. Let's think about that. So that didn't really show us that I'm dividing by 2, but let's look back here and think, 3 divided by 2, if I take 3 divided by 2, I get 1 1/2. If I take 2 divided by 2, 2 divided by 2, I get 1. Because 6/12 equals 1/2. It equals 1/2. So I could say, instead of 2 times 6/12, I could say 2 times 1/2, which would be 2 over 1 times 1/2, which equals 2/2, which equals 1, which is exactly what I got. Or 3 over 1 times 1/2, which would equal 3/2, which equals 1 and 1/2, which is exactly what I got. Now let's look up here. So I could change this to 16 over 1 times 1/2, which equals 16/2, which equals 8. So yes, Alyssa is correct. And the reason for that is because 6/12 equals 1/2. Go ahead and finish numbers 2, 3, and 4 on page 194.